This is our prayer box. We keep it at the back of the room so that it's always available for you to write down your prayers and place them in the box. We keep the box here for about 30 days with the prayers in it before we send them to Silent Unity at Unity Village, where they're prayed over for another 30 days. So together, let us just take a moment to pause. Moving into that place of higher vibration, let us lift up these prayers for their fulfillment to the highest good of all. With gratitude for this, we say thank you, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Jean. I am doing my part for world peace. Over and over, we are told that world peace begins with peace in our hearts. That's very good news. It means I can contribute to world peace every day. I don't have to be a diplomat or high-ranking government official to play a role in moving the planet toward peace. I only have to remember to choose peace in every situation. Peace is far more than refraining from physical violence. Peace is kinder thoughts and deeds. Peace is giving the benefit of the doubt. Peace is honesty and trust. Peace is even simple courtesy. Each time I see the face of God in another human being and treat that person accordingly, I contribute to world peace. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you are called in the one body, and be thankful. Colossians 3:15. Now let us prepare ourselves to say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Amen. Now let us join together and affirm this new version of the Lord's Prayer. Divine Mind, who is everywhere, we honor your name. You are in our hearts throughout the universe. May your will be done. Give us the bread we need each day. Free us from our offenses as we free our offenders. Give us wisdom to avoid temptation and error. Yours is the power, the glory, and praise forever. Amen.
And now let us move a little closer to the stillness. Pausing for a moment to breathe deeply. Breathing in that divine love. And breathing out gratitude. We relax into this moment and continue to breathe deeply, releasing any tension that we hold in our body, allowing any thoughts in our mind to just be, allowing our emotions to just be, and accepting what is in this moment. As we move closer to the stillness, we affirm together that we are spiritual beings. We are perfect. We are whole. And we are harmonious. It is how we are created, and it is how we always are. It is how we always will be at the core of our being. Let us picture together a cloud of light surrounding our body, comforting light, the divine light. Allow it to touch each part of your skin. And now allow it to move within you, touching each cell cell with its rejuvenating life energy. Washing away any tension, renewing, rejuvenating, energizing each cell. Blessing this body where we live for a time to be the divine expression of God in this world. As spiritual beings, let us see this light grow, expanding that cloud of light so that it touches the cloud of our neighbor next to us. It grows, encompassing the entire church building, and continues to grow so that it's so big it cannot be contained in this city. It touches every soul, every being. We are radiant sources of truth in this moment, in every moment. Our thoughts, our prayers. Resting in the comfort of this divine light, we move closer to that stillness within. Allowing Spirit, letting go of our own ego mind, and just be in the silence. From that silence, we begin to become more aware of this room around us. Grateful for all that we have and all that we give. Grateful for one another. Grateful for this church body who comes together to affirm the truth, to hold that truth for one another. Grateful for Spirit, that we are Spirit, that there is nowhere we can ever go that we are without Spirit. Grateful. Simply grateful. And it is with this general feeling of gratitude that we say thank you. And so it is. Amen. It's a beautiful day in my consciousness. And I certainly hope that it is for you. And if it's not, choose to change it right now. This morning I would like to talk about destiny, or the calling. What it is that we are called to do in this world. It's without a doubt that Spirit meant for us to accomplish something while we were here. And what is that? How do we know it? How do we be it? So let's first look at what Paul says. In Ephesians, he says, I beg you to lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. So is he saying that I'm not going to get this calling until I have these other things? Or is he saying that as I experience this calling, I begin to experience these other things? This humility where I subordinate my ego to the Christ consciousness. Not the humility where I cower before some powerful person in this world. No. Humility is on the inside. I subordinate my ego sense of self to that Christ consciousness that we are reminded of when we light the Christ candle. Bearing with one another in love. Love is an inner quality that sees good everywhere and in everybody. Charles Fillmore says it's the pure essence of being that binds us together, the whole human family. So bearing with one another, this love, when we look at another person, any person, what do we see? If we're bearing them in love, we see that divine within them. We see that love. We experience that energy connection that is love. It's not some romantic thing. It's much more. It's much more all-encompassing. God is love. Unity of the Spirit. Another energy feeling. When we are in that calling place, that place of our calling, we experience that unity of the Spirit. That feeling of oneness. The bond of peace. Charles Fillmore says, peace is harmony and tranquility derived from the awareness of Christ consciousness. So as I began to prepare for this talk, I wanted to know what Emily Cady had to say about the calling. Because when I finally admitted my calling, I was reading Emily Cady upstairs. We were studying Lessons in Truth. And I kept having this thought coming back to my mind and seeing myself here. And I kept saying, no. There is no way. I'm not good enough. I'm not. I mean, so many of these things. But it kept coming back. I kept having this thought. And we were reading about desire of the heart. So I've got a few quotes here from Emily Cady I want to share. There is no good you can desire in your life, but what at its center, it is God. So if you're desiring something good in your life, it's not coming from ego. It's coming from that Christ consciousness. It's not coming from God out there. Remember, God's not out there on a cloud. Right? It's that God within speaking through us. Asking springs from desire to possess some good. And what is desire? Desire in the heart is always God tapping at the door of our consciousness with His infinite supply. So let's think about the mechanics of how that works. What you're seeing now is a diagram of the creative process. It's how unity describes the Trinity. You know? Unity, Trinity, Trinity, unity. It almost seems a contradiction in terms. So this is how Charles Fillmore and the other New Thought folks have helped us to understand what the Trinity is. It's mind, idea, expression. And it's on different levels. So you see on the left side is divine mind. That mind of God. Divine idea and divine expression. Divine expression is where we come in. Because we are the expression of God in this universe. And so now starts another Trinity with our mind, our ideas, and manifestation. Because our thoughts do create. The same way that the divine thought created all of what we're living in, we are also manifesting. We are the continuing creation of that divinity through us. So how does that tie in with my destiny? Remember what Emily said. If there's this desire in your heart, that it came from God mind. It was an idea in God's mind first. And then it was expressed in my mind. And I'm beginning to feel that. Emily Cady also says, the only way God has of letting us know of His infinite supply and His desire to make it ours is for Him to gently push upon this little divine spark, a part of Himself living within each of us. He wants us, she wants us. She wants us to be strong, self-sufficient man or woman, to have more power and dominion over all that is before us. So she quietly and silently pushes a little more of herself, her desire, into the center of our being. That's that desire of the heart. Well, when we were talking about this in class, I said, well, Reverend Carol, what about those other desires that we have? Because it says that all the desires that we have are coming from Spirit. Well, what about if I desire, for example, my neighbor's wife? How is that from Spirit? So what has happened there is ego has grabbed a hold of my desire for love, which is good. There's nothing bad about that. And has projected that over onto my neighbor's wife. So that I'm thinking that if I have my neighbor's wife, I will have that love, which is what my really true desire is. Because my true desire is not only to have love, but to give love freely, openly, unconditionally. That's the desire of the heart. And ego has corrupted that over into being an adulterous desire. The same thing goes for things. If I desire a fur coat or new shoes, there's a longing within me that comes from Spirit, and ego mind is trying to fill it with a thing out there. All right, so let's continue with what Emily was saying about these desires. God enlarges, so to speak, our real self, and at once we become conscious of a new desire to be bigger, grander, and stronger. If God had not pushed at the center of our being first, we would never have thought of it, but would have remained perfectly content as we were. So that longing is coming from Spirit. And if we didn't have that, we wouldn't even grow. I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna tell you this joke that I'm reminded of in the moment, okay? So there's a family of hillbillies on the porch. And they're just lazing away the afternoon. It's hot out, it's humid, they don't really want to do a thing. And they hear the dog, Old Blue, is howling, just a pitiful howl. So Paul says to the oldest son, why don't you go out there and see what's wrong with Old Blue? And the boy says, oh, Paul, I'm just too tired to move. He says to his next youngest one, the older boy says to the next younger boy, why don't you go out there and see what's wrong with Old Blue? He says, oh, I'm just too tired to move. And this happened all the way down the line until it got to the little baby of the family. And he just decided that, I guess I'm going to have to go do it because there's no one else I can call on. So he comes back, and Old Blue has stopped howling now. And Paul says, well, what was wrong with Old Blue? He was sitting on a cockleberry bush and he was just too tired to move. So the point of that is that without something to prod us, we're not even going to be wanting to move. Okay, so let's look at calling again, and we're going to go from a different direction here. And this part of the talk is inspired by this book, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss. I want to share a little bit what I know about Carolyn Miss. She was raised up Catholic and went away from Catholicism and came back. She's really pretty well into her spirituality within the Catholic Church now. She was featured in the Unity magazine, if not the last issue, the issue before that. And on her talk about, it's all about energy. She's what they call an intuitive, a medical intuitive. She has actually gets called by doctors from another state, what is wrong with my patient? And she can diagnose over the phone, and it works. That's what I thought. Wow. But you know, if you think about it, spirit is everywhere. There is no distance for spirit. Everything happens all at the same place at the same time. So, you know, the only reason we go wow is because we're used to having to get on a plane to go over there where spirit's already there. Okay, so this book, Anatomy of the Spirit, talks a lot about our energy maps, and she uses the chakra system from Sanskrit, and she ties in the Tree of Life from Kabbalah and the sacraments from the Catholic, from the Christian faith. And I'm not going to go into a lot of that. I'm really just going to briefly touch on some of this stuff because we don't have all day. All right. So the chakra system is 7 energy centers. It's really just a model, okay? It's not, you know, it's just a way of speaking about our energy. But it works. It really helps us. So there's 7 energy centers that start at our root and they go to the crown of our head. And they're up and down the length of our spine. The energy of each chakra center is unique to that place. It's a unique place that we can express that energy as it moves through us. What energy? That energy of spirit, that substance. And we're just one thing. We're only using words now, okay? These words happen to come from the Hindu tradition. Okay. So let's begin at the beginning. When we are first born, we have a physical body. And you can't really see the root chakra because it's behind the Christ candle, but there's you'll tilt to the side, there's a little red dot down there that is showing you the position of that root chakra. It relates to our physical body. It's at the base of the spine. It includes our legs and our bones and our feet, the rectum and the immune system. The root chakra asks us to honor the tribe into which we are born. Our family. Even if life's journey has pushed us to move on outside of that family unit, we still have that connection and part of our identity of who we are. So that energy of that connection is in the root chakra. Our sense of self-respect, our sense of personal honor, all feed the energy of the root chakra. Next is the sacral chakra. It relates to our power, creativity, sexual energy. It's centered in our sexual organs, our large intestine, lower vertebrae, pelvis, appendix, bladder, and hip area. This energy is related to how we interact consciously with others, to form unions with people who support our development. Not necessarily our spouse, but any type of interpersonal relationship. If we have a fear of losing control of our lives or a fear of some power, they can eventually manifest as ailments, like chronic pain in the lower back or pelvic area, arthritis, prostate or ovarian cancer, impotency, and bladder problems. What you're going to find is that each of these energy centers can spring positive energy, or if we block that energy, then we can experience physical ailments. All right, the next chakra is the solar plexus. I also want to point out that these correspond very nicely to the 12 powers that Charles Fillmore talks about. And one of these days I'd really like to do a play shot on the chakras and we'll bring in the 12 powers and maybe some of this other stuff. But the solar plexus chakra is our self-responsibility and self-respect. It houses both the survival intuition, which warns of danger and negative action, or energy coming from others and self-esteem. We honor ourselves and respect everyday survival information that we receive from intuition. That's that guidance from spirit. The heart chakra, love, commitment, compassion, and forgiveness. On the negative side, it could be about hatred, resentment, bitterness, grief, anger, loneliness, self-centeredness. The heart chakra continually directs us to evaluate the truth and integrity of our belief system. Holding on to negative emotions, whether they're directed at ourselves or others, and fears, they all drain and disrupt the heart chakra. The throat chakra, willpower, and the power of choice. Every area of our lives, including health and illness, is directly affected by the choices that we make and how we make them. Now, our thoughts are prayers, right? The throat chakra acts as a focal point for the heart energy and the mind energy that we're going to talk about next in the third eye, as the third eye. So the third eye is intellect, intuition, and reasoning. It involves our mental abilities and psychological skill at evaluating our beliefs and attitudes. From this center, we continually search for the difference between truth and illusion. Truth being that which is inside us, absolute truth, that which never changes, the core of our being. And illusion being those things that change in the world, the illusion of our separateness. This is the chakra that explores that difference. It's centered in the brain, our nervous system, eyes, ears, nose, the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland. And now we come finally to our highest realization, and this is where our calling comes from. The crown chakra. There's a little bit of purple there at the top of the head. It's our inspiration, our spirituality, and our ability to trust. It is from this chakra that we can get our personal relationship with the divine. When we go into that stillness and we experience that Christ consciousness, that is that energy of the crown chakra. Our calling comes from here. When we are in that place of calling, remember what Paul said, we have those love, we have that peace, we have all those things. That's that energy of the crown. We block it by being afraid to enter into a closer relationship with the divine. So there's this affirmation that I found on the internet, and it really spoke to me, and I wanted to share it. So read it inwardly or aloud with me, but I'm going to go ahead and affirm it right now. As I strengthen the bond with divine energy, I accept my responsibility and make decisions that are balanced and support my spiritual growth. I am receptive to the spiritual connection to God's divine energy. I feel this energy move through me, energizing every cell of my body. I am receptive to the guidance of divine will. Ego mind told me that there was no way that I could ever be up here as your spiritual leader. There's no way I'll ever find the money to go to the ministry. There were so many reasons, or let's just say excuses, that ego threw out there to try and keep me from going there. And I'm going to tell you that continues. Just because I've accepted that calling doesn't mean that I'm not still having doubts at times. That's that ego. We talked about it this morning at Sunday school. That's the temptation. Jesus, when he went to the desert, he already knew, but look at the temptations that he had to go through before he could start his ministry. Even at the very end, he was still had that ego influence, and take this burden from me, All right, so when we're in that place of the crown energy, we can ask Spirit, what is mine to do? What is it that is mine to do? Think about it. Is there some desire of your heart? Is there something that keeps coming back? A desire of the heart? I can't tell you what it is because we're all different and we're all going to have different callings depending upon our gifts from Spirit. Are you holding back? Putting the brakes on? Denying that it's true? I did it for at least a year. Because I can remember that coming up at least a year before I finally admitted it. I just couldn't see myself in that position, in this position. Is there a fear of failure? Is the fear about how is this going to change my life? My life is going to be different. The answer is that everything becomes better. You don't really give up anything. Everything becomes multiplied. The things that you think you have to give up just become that much better. Don't think about Gandhi or some other saint who is known for their calling, because that's not you. That was their path. That was their calling. That was their experience. We are each individuals with our own body, our own traditions, our own uniqueness. And our calling and our experience of that calling will be different. So when you accept that calling, I mean, look at me. I'm nothing like Reverend Carol. We both have the same calling. We're both addressing this church body from the same place. And yet we're so vastly different. Is it a fear of the unknown? That I don't know what it's going to be like? But the answer to all of those things is the same. And laughter is a curative medicine. I love it. And that's why I like this particular froggy, because he's just got that bright grin. I mean, it even touches his eyes, you know? The smile touches the eyes. So, what I really want to know is, can we work it? Is there some part of you that wants to go a little deeper into these energy centers, exploring them in connection with the 12 powers? I've got a really good book by another Unity minister who brings them into the revelation. Because there's 7 tablets, there's 7 of all these things, and there's 7 chakras. So it's very interesting, and I'd like to explore that. But the point is there's lots more that can be covered on this topic, and we're not going to get to it today. But if you're interested in exploring that stuff, talk to one of the board members, talk to me, and maybe we can put together a workshop, or as I really like to say, a play shop, where we can play with these ideas and see how they interact with our lives. So just thank you for being who you are and for allowing me to be up here. And I hope and pray that some little bit of what I said today touches a little spark in you and sets off a seed that grows into a mighty oak. Thank you.